What is going on, family? It is Click Filet, and as you can see, I brought my gold glowy Thorpe armor, and I am ready to go for depths, and I want to show you the way I like to run as a tank. All right. So one quick thing before I go into tanking for depths is that just notice we're doing a higher level mutation. So you will see what's called shriveled fire. That is basically a ring that goes around someone. Everybody needs to basically pass through that, which is like a cleanse. And then you want to get out of that. So if you see people going in and out of that ring, that is the reason why. So as a tank, you actually have a couple options here. You can grab the group that's off to the right. A healer can grab them as well on the way. That's what we do here. And then you move everything up over to a line of sight over next to the pillar. One DPS is going to hit the other pillar. That way you open the door at the same time. Now that that room is open, your healer or range can start pulling some of those enemies from the next room over to you so you can line of sight them right here. Just make sure to bite off as much as you can chew. And as you're holding them here or near the last enemies to kill, a DPS should be going into the next room and opening that orb with their Azov staff. Now on this part, you can skip some enemies by staying to the right, then 3 members go to the corner of that pillar, use their Azov staff, while 2 members are over at the door ready to be opened. So for this part, there's actually 3, in my opinion, options that you can do as a tank here. I would go ahead and pull this enemy named Bennett, defeat him first, and then you can decide if you want to pull the rest of all the enemies all the way up top to the stairs, or just bite off a little bit at a time. It is up to you. Now for this next part, again, just a couple of options. You can stop right about here. Make sure you grab those crawlers so they don't eat your healer. Taunt everything here, and the healer can actually, or range, can go ahead and pull other targets in the room, or you can actually grab all of these and head all the way up the stairs. This next part, no need to wait, just head all the way up the stairs to the tendril while one DPS grabs the gatherable, and you should be good. And then of course, once you reach board, just note that if he does a slam down, you'll get stunned, so try to keep your board up. And then one cool trick after you defeat boar is to do a line of sight. Basically, the healer is grabbing things on the left and right of the stairwell so you don't have to face them later. You just line of sight them, and then boom, you've got a ton of enemies grouped up, and you can get rid of them quick. Once you reach the next tendril, of course, ranged again can be pulling things from the top, and then you're going to want to move this up to the right. And you can note that you don't actually have to defeat the enemies on the opposite side of this. You can actually leave them. In fact, as a tank for the next room, what you're going to do is skip all these enemies, make your way to the tendril, make sure you block that so you don't end up on the ground. Go through the teleporter, the rest of your team will follow, and not to worry, you'll still make your enemy count for the mutation. For the first part where you teleport to, there's 3 ranged right away, 2 bow and an acolyte. You can take out those ranged first, or you can do what we did. The healer or range is going to pull the next room in with us to get a nice grouping. Same thing applies to this part. Just make sure to grab all those crawlers and then go right to the acolyte, and then your range should be bringing more enemies in from the other room. So just a reminder and a note, this is something that I didn't know for quite a while, but there's a wheel in the middle. You can see that it spins, that spawns in the enemies. So if it feels like this part is slow, it's just because you need to stand on the middle and get the enemies to actually spawn and then have the glyphs highlight. Now it's best to line of sight everything in this, have your range, keep hitting things to pull it in. Then you go hit the range targets after you're done killing the melee. Then you're going to want to head over to the tendril, which has a name Lasher, which is quite fitting, and then you can pull that mercenary over as well. At this point, you'll reap some of the benefit of line of sighting those enemies from the stairs earlier, because you'll have less to fight and less range to deal with. You can fight those enemies at the bottom of the stairs or bring them up top and then have someone actually pull Dispar from the back of the room. As a tank, one quick trick you can do here, grab the crawler tendril on both sides, and then what the healer will do is put that sacred ground there, and then someone can grab the gatherables on both sides. You don't have to fight anything, and then you can leave the room. And as you cross the bridge, you can skip these guys and just make sure to grab your gatherable. Now this priest part is probably one of the most failed parts I've seen with pugs and just abroad. So as a tank, there's a couple of key things you want to do. Number one, you just want to make sure to use your taunts at the right moment. Now you notice I'm using a hammer. to go ahead and taunt them. My hammer, Entertainer's Maul, has Sundering Shockwave as well, which adds Rend that helps your team. And then I sword and board and then taunt from there. Just make sure to wait till he spawns his dogs and then go ahead and taunt. And if you're in any kind of communication with your group, just tell them if you don't have a dog taunted to just bring that dog back to you so you can at least get a hit on them with your Carnelian weapon. Now, once you go through the teleporter and head right, just notice that I hammered down just on the edge of that, plus the healer is grabbing a few others to group them up and to save on time. Just another reminder, grab those crawlers and then go right over to the Acolyte. Sometimes he gets stuck in the corner, which is nice, and then pull the next mob over into this room. Now just note, one of the rooms you actually don't have to defeat. You can stop right here. One of the range will pull Goldar, and you'll just have to defeat probably 2 crawlers on the ground, and then you can actually go through the teleporter. I'm guessing you probably already know this part, but of course just keep the bear's attention so that he doesn't ground and pound all your friends. So you can do 2 things here. You can just go ahead and tank these 2 enemies, or one could just go over there and slap somebody even though I taunted them. It's probably best to defeat them here, or you can kite them all the way to the next room, but you will have to drag them in with you when defeating Thorpe. So here's a few tips when you're tanking Thorpe. Number 1, I'd say you need to just do a quick taunt after he spawns his devil dogs or whatever you want to call them, because what he'll do is he will laser actually right after that, and then what you're doing is you're facing him away from the group, so he lasers away from the group and they don't have to worry about that. Another thing to watch out for when he says time to taste corrupted steel, you don't need to stay in that, just get out. Some takes stay in, but there's really no point in it. You can just get out of that fiery circle. Another tip is if you find yourself sliding everywhere, a lot of people like to tank him by the actual door. Honestly, I found a couple bugs with that, so be careful if you do. If it works for you, great, but I just don't like to do that. I keep him actually over in this area, and it works out for me and the group. Overall, I think it's just a stamina test for your build, and with Shield Rush and the right perks, it does help you get some stamina back. Well, everyone, I hope this was a helpful video. If you wouldn't mind helping me build this channel by giving a like and a subscribe, maybe a comment, I do appreciate it. It's just a couple clicks away, no pun intended. Also, there is a link to a cheat sheet in the description below that will show you some tank builds, DPS builds, and healer builds, making it easier to find the items you need and who drops them. Thanks again, everyone, for hanging out, and we will see you in the next video.